In today's video, traders, we're going to be talking about a very simple trading strategy that just might work involving a simple candlestick pattern setup. Let's go ahead and get into the video. We'll break it down step by step, starting right now. How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another one of my videos. My name is Nick, also known as Trader Nick. I make all sorts of trading educational content here on YouTube. If this is your first time here and you're looking to improve as a trader, start right now by subscribing to the channel down below. I've got all sorts of trading content here for you to help you out in your trading journey, so I do hope that you will also give this video a thumbs up if it's helpful to you. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the video today, guys. We're talking about a very simple concept, but I actually want to go through kind of the trade style, right, or the setup itself, as well as kind of doing some back testing here with you guys live on the chart. Now, I have not actually looked at the back test for this strategy, but this is something that someone had presented to me that told me worked very well for them. And so we're going to go ahead and actually kind of take a look at it today as a team here on the YouTube channel. So we're looking at a very, very simple concept. We're looking for something that has 2 bars one way, followed by 2 bars the other way. Now, why would this be significant, and how can we actually trade it? Well, again, we're looking for something that's very, very simple. We're looking for something like right here, right? We're looking for something, I'll go ahead and pull up my sketch pad. This setup right here, right? So we see 2 bars to the downside, followed by 2 bars to the upside. Now let's first, before we kind of dive into the back test and kind of get into this trading strategy, let's talk about why this concept might actually be significant. You guys know that one of the first things I like to do when I talk about candlestick pattern setups or styles is I like to break down the logic behind it, or why this trade setup might actually work. Well, let's keep it very simple here. Let's see that a market is going down, right? We have a market that's in a downtrend. Sellers are in control, and we do start to see, heavy selling pressure towards the end of a trend, much like the one we see like here, right? Very simple concept. We see a very solid strength movement to the downside, right? Red candle after red candle after red candle. So sellers are clearly in, kind of in strength here, right? They're controlling this market. But then suddenly we see something shift. Let's go ahead and make it this solid green color. Right? Let's say that we start to see something like this. Well, this kind of changes up the scenario, right? What was a very strong seller's market is actually showing some weakness. And in fact, bulls are showing some strength, right? So could this potentially be the signs of a starting reversal? Well, that's what we're going to find out. And that's what we're going to talk about in this strategy today. Because again, this concept is kind of a sign of strength coming into this market, right? Sellers are covering their shorts and buyers are looking to get involved in this market. Is this going to tell us next what's going to happen? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, of course, there's no guarantees, but this strategy, from what I've briefly looked at with it and from what I heard from the individual who told me about this trading strategy, it looks pretty good. Very simple concept, and on certain markets, which is another thing we'll talk about today, it seems to work really well. So in today's video, again, we're going to go through some of the back testing. We're going to go through some of kind of this trade setup, as well as talking about the logic. So again, very simple. Markets are in a sell trend. We have this kind of interesting little pattern where we have the 2 down, 2 up, hence the name of this video and the name of this strategy, right? Could this mean that if we start to take a buy position, that next we're going to see a continuation of that reversal? Or is it going to fade, right? Which way is it going to go? Well, from what I can tell so far, on particular markets, this actually has a really good indication of the shift of momentum, right? So what was a momentum market to the downside actually may potentially be shifting to the upside. So let's go ahead and dive into some examples. Let's take a look at this particular market. Now, what you can see here is I'm looking at euro dollar on the 4-hour chart. This seems to be a pretty decent time frame to use this particular trading strategy on, because the euro dollar has, in recent times, as I have mentioned in my euro dollar video, which I'll link up right here, you could see that a lot of times in the euro dollar in the last several months and even years, we've had a very choppy market environment. And so reversals have been very, very kind of powerful to trade. And so this particular strategy might actually work really well on euro dollar. So going going forward, let's actually take a look at some examples. Now, what you can see here right here is our very first example of a 2 down, 2 up. Now, briefly, I will mention that this can also potentially work on the other side, right? It could be a potential setup on the other side if we have two up, then 2 down, right? Reverse it for a potential short position. Let's go ahead and break it down though, guys. And what we'll do here is we're gonna highlight this particular example right here. So we have a market that is in kind of seller demand, right? Or seller control, right? We've had markets that are pushing lower and lower. You can see overall the trend has been down. Sellers are in control of this market, but then we get something significant, right? We get this particular pattern that we had talked about. We had 2 strong red candles here, right? A pip movement of, what is that, 51 pips or so. So nothing too shabby, right? We actually had a pretty good movement to the downside here. But then what happened next was where things got really interesting, because you can see that right here, we had 2 bars up. So here's our pattern. There's our 2 down and here's our 2 up. And overall, you can see that we did get our kind of pattern fulfilled here. And now what we would potentially be looking to do next is potentially on the next bar, if we like the setup, this could be where we could get involved on the long side, right? So a long position, we'll make that blue just for simplicity. Right here is where we'd be looking to potentially get long and join in on the trend. Well, Nick, where would we potentially put a stop? Where are we looking to, take profits? All of that stuff is important when talking about a particular trading strategy. Well, on this particular one, what I actually like is an idea of selling or putting a stop loss just below the lows of the recent move. Now you have some options here. Now, if you've watched my channel for a while, you know that I actually like to use the closes as opposed to wicks a lot of times. Not always, but particularly in this trading strategy, we're going to look to put a close underneath the close or the recent close of the bottom of this move. Now, why wouldn't I do the wick? Well, the thing is here, guys, if I put it down below the wick, I'm actually risking quite a bit of pips, more than 50 pips on this particular trade, which might be a little bit too much in this particular example. Now, again, feel free to adjust it how you see fit, but a lot of times I do like to use the closes as my reference point for kind of putting stop losses or take profits, or even drawing trend lines and support and resistance levels. So with that said, that's where we'd potentially be looking to get a stop, because we're looking for this thing to continue. We don't want to see it reverse. If it starts to come down here, well, we probably want to be out of the trade anyways, because it might have a sign of, this particular setup might not necessarily be valid anymore. So then where would we look to take a take profit? Well, in this particular example, probably going to shoot for that 2-to-1 that we always talk about here on the channel, which I'm not sure if it's going to hit it or not on this one. I'm going to just rough guess that it's up here. Not sure if it's going to hit there or not, but that's why we're going to go through this video and talk about this trading strategy. I'm going to do a little bit of back testing here to see what goes on. So let's go ahead and back out of there so that we can actually draw. Now, what I've done with my Fibonacci tool here is I've adjusted it just a little bit. Now, let's talk about our theoretical entry, and this will make more sense in just a second. Here's my entry, and here is my stop loss, okay? Now, you may be asking, Nick, what is your Fibonacci tool doing here? Let me really quick just show you guys. Here in the properties, if I could get that, I don't know why I can't grab that. There it is. So what I've adjusted here is I've put my Fibonacci tool, kind of adjusted it to these 3 levels just for the sake of this video. You can see a level 0, right? That's our entry. A level 1, which is our, a level 1 is going to be our entry, and level 3 is going to be our take profit, right? So all of these are kind of dragging where we want our stop loss and dragging where we want our take profit, keeping things very simple. This will give us just a 2-to-1 risk to reward. You can see right here that this area is about 1 times and this is about 2 times. So this gives us our risk to reward concept here that we want to be able to look at. So then we can kind of fast forward here when we're doing our back testing. You can see in this particular example, this actually worked out pretty good. You can see if I extend it out there, you can see we did end up getting our take profit hit on this particular example. Let's actually go ahead and continue on, because I'm curious to see next. I actually see one right on the chart right here, and that one already looks pretty good. So let's see what this one did right here. Look at this particular example, guys. This one I really, really liked as well. And again, I have not looked at this strategy very much in detail. This was something that someone shared with me and they asked me to do a video on it. So here I am doing it. If you do have any questions, by the way, put some comments down below. I'm happy to always help, and I love to do video requests. So that's what this video is today. So again, euro dollar is kind of what we're looking at. We're looking at the 4-hour time frame. Here's another example, guys. We have this concept right here. And let's go ahead and put this so we can spot the setup. you can see that we had a similar setup here. And if we look at euro dollar, you can see there's our 2 down and there's our 2 up. Something as simple as this. Now you might be able to fill in some criteria here, right? Let's say that you wanted to do, they have to be more of an engulfing kind of style, right? Where you have bigger green candles or smaller red candles. Again, something to play with here. And today we're just back testing a strategy that's been presented to me. So let's go ahead and continue on taking a look at this strategy. We'll use our Fibonacci tool again here. Again, using our entry as our first point and where we'd put our stop as our second. Our stop is just below our recent lows. In this case, it worked out fantastic. Now, again, not sure if it will continue to work out fantastic, but you can see in euro dollar looking pretty solid so far. Now you can see here's our entry, right? And there is our kind of stop loss just below the recent low of the close. And here we actually made a nice profit of, what is that? 55 pips or so. So not bad at all. There's kind of another trade example there. Let's go ahead and move on, guys. We'll continue to see how this strategy does. Now, we want to be as fair as possible. Now, the question is, there are concepts here that are kind of, you have to be unbiased with your back testing, right? So, for example, here's 2 down, 2 up that did not, or 2 up, 2 down that did not work on the short side, right? And here's another one, 2 up, 2 down that did not work on the short side. Right, so going forward, there might be certain ways that work better than others. Again, something to play with. Here's an example of another one that did not work, right? 2 up, 2 down. That would have been a stop out, right? Because we're looking to get short here. Price would have rallied back above the highs and that would have closed us out. But here's an example. Let's take a look at this one, right? We just got a clean example here. But guys, remember, one thing to stop and pause about is the fact that, again, we're using a 2-to-1 risk to reward. So that actually gives us a more kind of a more, probable scenario of making money. If we can just get even something like 40 or 50% accuracy would be amazing with this particular trading strategy. So we'll go forward here with this particular example. You can see we did get our 2 up and 2 down. So here's a short example where we place our stop. Well, let's put our entry first, right? Let's get our entry here. Our entry is going to be here after that very next bar. And we put a stop just above the recent high. That's going with our criteria, right? So in this particular case, you can see we had a really quick, beautiful trade there, right? Where we had, what is that? A take profit down here of a 2-to-1 for about 58 pips. Really, guys, I'm starting to like this strategy a lot, especially with euro dollar, as the person who recommended this said that euro dollar seems to do pretty well with this strategy, which I can see for sure, right? We're starting to see kind of those rollover effects where when we get those 2 up and then 2 down, we get the opportunity to kind of see how this would have worked. Now, I do want to add something about the back testing. If you're using a strict same lot size every single time you trade, this might be kind of an interesting thing to think about, because if you're getting 58 pips here, but then you have a smaller trade, right, that's only going to net you 30 pips on a win, you might want to consider changing your lot sizes to make your wins the same amount, right? So let's say that you want to risk $25 and go for $50. You might have to adjust your lot sizes to make that possible. Now you can find all sorts of calculators online to do that, right? Pip calculators and profit calculators are all over the internet for you if you're looking to do that sort of thing. Guys, I really like this strategy so far. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this particular trading strategy. If anybody would like to backtest more and share with the group, that's awesome as well. So guys, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video. I've got more videos here for you to check out on the channel, and we will catch you next time.